Okay. We're just smudging a little, offering up
I start with you.
smoke and gratitude.
Be cleansed, be purified for all the beauty that you bring and shall bring. As well, oh priest. Be cleansed as well. You're still okay here. Perhaps it's your back, so you can
Yeah, I would have set up actually.
I'm gonna do this for you, my brother.
Oh. So here doing the smudging is one of our priesthood, Thomas Fuller. And there's a few people in the room here receiving the smudge. The house has already been smudged by another of our priesthood, a mysterious priest we'll call Anonymous. You may have heard of him before.
As we all chuckle for things that people can't see on the camera.
Right. I know.
Anonymous is smudging. Another anonymous.
You want to help people online know that they're about to be smudged?
Well, are there people
Are there people
online
online?
yet?
Nobody else is on
We're
yet.
recording
so-
it so people will.
Oh.
Okay, so
yeah.
we are going to offer you some smudge here, and this
Here.
is a little smoke.
For you online, as Lucera was saying, we're going to we believe in this, that, you know, our thoughts have power, and so we're visioning this smoke coming in toward you. So just you vision that smoke coming in and put your hands above your head. And imagine that smoke just clearing out the crown chakra for you and bringing that energy down into the earth. And into the air.
May you be cleansed.
Virtual smudging.
Smudging.
It wasn't before, it is now.
Right. All right, we're still waiting for some people to arrive. And so we're going to start with little divination time. Earlier, we pulled a couple cards for the work of the day, the whole day. Lucera and I did. Show them your face, your pretty face. And one of the cards was smoke. That's a good one to talk about, right?
Yeah.
I thought, what in the world did I write? Was smoke. Now I thought, oh, smoke, you know, because I kind of thought about the fire yesterday, and you know, then when there was a lot of smoke coming up, and I thought, wow, that's a strange divination to really address. And of course, it's not got anything to do with that, perhaps, or maybe it does in a subtle way that we'd have to look deeper and higher into. But really, the card is about gratitude. Smoke is about gratitude. And there's a shadow to all of the cards, of these particular cards, which I don't have the box out here, so I forget the name of this deck. Oh, here it is. The Wisdom.
The Mother's Wisdom deck.
And so the shadow, of course, of gratitude is unappreciation, not appreciation.
Judgment, right?
No, that's the next
Oh,
one.
that was a different one. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm going to let Lucera speak on the next card.
Okay. Okay, and then the next card we got was Mary, and
Which was under the categories of ancestral mother, right?
yes, and
Ancestral lineage,
ancestral mother.
ancestral mother.
And so the word for her was love.
Unconditional love.
Uh-huh. And in the shadow is judgment.
Which are two very important, things for us to address in the world today. With so much going on in the world at large outside and so much judgment and separation. The antidote to that is unconditional love. And, a lot of people really don't understand much about unconditional, what that means. How can I love someone if they've hurt me? How can I love someone if they've taken advantage? How can I love someone if I don't trust them? But we know that unconditionality of loving is what is going to, first of all, heal ourselves, others, and all that is. And so in order for us to practice that, and it doesn't mean, of course, that we're perfect at it. It's a practice. That's why it's a practice, because we have to keep working at it. But in order to do unconditional love, it doesn't mean that you're going to, step into a similar set of circumstances in which you formerly got wounded or, something else happened, or it means you have a warning against that. You don't forget all that, but you practice unconditional loving, because to be angry and judgmental, as the shadow of this is to carry a wound around in an active state within your own being. And that's harmful to yourself, it's harmful to others, and it's harmful to all that is. So the practice of unconditional love, which of course has been made popular by Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King and others who have been in the war zones of many issues and cultures and times. And, might I say, Jesus and Mary and some others of that ilk. This is a long-standing wisdom. It's not new. And it's often very difficult for people to rock it enough to want to practice it. But once you start practicing unconditional love, your pathway is much more easeful in all things, even when there is strife or when there is judgment. For you to step into that place immediately causes release of the things that have been barring your reality, barring your heart from opening. Could anyone else speak to that?
Yeah, there's some bubbling here.
Yeah,
there's something about that. I think that, like you said, when we're harmed, there can be that anger comes up. I mean, anger happens, right? We get angry when something happens or hurts us. And to me, I'm always looking for, where does anger lead to discernment? Because anger is there, it's a powerful emotion. There's something wrong with anger. We just don't want to stay there forever, right? So where does anger then become that discernment of actually that's not okay and I don't want to engage, but I can also love them without re-engaging into the things that might be harmful to us and others, I think that's what comes up for me.
Thank you, Durga. That's Durga, one of our priests.
Yeah. So while we're at it, let's go ahead and introduce. So
yeah, please.
We started before introductions because we're still waiting on some folks to arrive. But we have here Marilyn Motherbear Scott, our High Priestess of the Magical Cauldron. And she is...
Welcome all of you who are, seeing this on a device somehow. This is amazing, and thank you for, tuning in.
And Mother Bear is an elder priestess who transmits the ancient goddess wisdoms. She is the creatrix of the magical cauldron, goddess gather, and the living mysteries of Eleusis. And we also have here Durga Fuller. She's a priestess in the magical cauldron, and Thomas Fuller, priest in the magical cauldron. And I am Lucera Love. And then we have here our friend Trinity, and she's come today to join us. Thank you for coming. Yes.
And then there's a couple lurking in the shadows.
We have two other priests who are here, and they are not on camera. One is supporting the children, and the other is supporting the outer circle here.
All right, so now we did the introduction, and what were we? We were still talking about unconditionality, and I wondered if anyone else wanted to speak to that.
I could say something.
All right.
Would you like to be on camera?
I guess so.
Right.
A little bit.
She's good. You sliced it, right?
Oh,
So if you go back, so that's it doesn't.
There.
okay.
Well, that definitely resonates. Where just because you still love somebody unconditionally doesn't mean that you need to still be their best friend or even have them in your life. You can actually, love someone from afar. I think it's unhealthy for you to, like you said, engage with them. I guess I worked with boundaries a lot because when I was younger, my mom was really, really loving and really sweet, and but almost to the point where, like, if I didn't like somebody, like, oh, that person kind of gives me the creeps, like as a child, instead of saying, oh yeah, well, you don't have to talk to that person if you don't feel comfortable, she would kind of be like, well, they might have had like a hard childhood, or kind of like explain where they were coming from. And so I'm already really empathic, and so I had a really hard time with boundaries and being able to say no, or be able to be healthy in that way on the other extreme. Like I was too understanding and too inclusive. And so I've had to learn through my adulthood, like how to say no and how to have boundaries. So that really resonates. And so I'm really quick to like forgive and see where somebody's coming from, and I'm still learning to like, maybe there's a time not to engage.
Yeah, that's something we have to all learn, I think, as we grow up, what issues, what situation is safe and whole for us to be able to enter into without, self-afflicting.
Right.
Well, I wanted to point out about the shadow that it's not necessarily negative. So as far as judgment, that it is actually healthy to a point to have judgment about like whether this is a situation I want to enter into or a person that I want to spend time with. And so I think where judgment becomes unhealthy is when we kind of stay in that place around everything and everybody, and we let it cut us off from loving or having compassion. But I think it's important to incorporate that shadow side into the love piece, the shadow of judgment, because there's a side to that is actually healthy.
This card in this book names judgment as the shadow aspect of unconditional love. And Durga used a word that I actually prefer when it comes to judging,
Yeah.
and that's discernment.
Yes. that's
Because
good,
judgment carries a lot of weight, you know, and there's an awful lot of people who do it without thinking twice about it.
Yeah.
And it's very wounding, you know, when that happens to many people. And it hurts maybe a whole group or a whole culture when it comes down like that.
Right.
And judgment is pretty, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, lofty in some way. So,
Right.
yeah, I knew. See, I just turned to Thomas.
So I want to say something about unconditional love and how it also needs to be applied internally, because it's very easy these days to love a lot of different parts of ourselves, but also to continue to want to push away or hate even other parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that's not really unconditional love. And what's also I find to be true is that if we're judging certain parts of ourselves or trying to keep them in the shadows, it's that much easier to project that part on other people. So the capacity to be really loving and forgiving and welcoming of all parts of ourselves, I think, really support this goal of unconditional love of people out there. So I think it's important to say something about that as well.
Yes, thank you. And also, another part of this mix, and obviously these are very intense words for us, because look how even the small group of us have a lot to say and a lot to think about it. But when I think of anger, like it's okay to be angry, and I think, gosh, it just is not something I readily go toward. I mean, and so I think, but what my bag is when it comes to is getting hurt. I get hurt instead of getting angry. I get sad instead of getting angry. You know, and so maybe that's, I don't know what that is, but that's the way it wears on me. And I rarely respond in anger to situations, but of course I had my practices going for a long, long time, and that is a pathway of unconditional love and unconditional forgiveness, which we won't take up, but that's even a more complicated part. And of course, you know, we've looked into the practices of Desmond Tutu in the South Africa. Do you call that a diaspora or what? The South African situation, you know? And where there's a book now about forgiving and a practice of how to forgive, and it's very wonderful. There's like 4 simple steps to it, but then in order to do that, people or groups have to be willing to sit in a circle and speak without anger.
And sometimes with the perpetrator there.
Yes,
in the room.
yeah.
And actually, it's ideally with that.
So now we spoke a lot about the Mary card here, which is the ancestral mother. And in the reading that we read the card, and I remember it has to do with how mothers love their children, that if you do not understand unconditional love beforehand and you have a child, you're going to understand it with that birthing process, because the line between those things dissolves with your children, you know, with your babies, and even when they grow up and, you know, do things you wish they wouldn't, and you know, like, oh my goodness, love does not dissolve. So that's when we come into. So that was an interesting card, but we haven't spoken a whole lot about gratitude, which somehow does seem and unappreciation, which does seem connected in some way to this, because you know, gratitude is part of a way that we can show our love, you know, show our appreciation. And so to the practice of gratitude is really an important facet of our maturity, I think. And so, does anyone want to say anything more before we move on?
It seems to me that gratitude is a pathway to unconditional love.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels to me like gratitude, like you can practice it's sometimes hard to practice unconditional love. You know what I mean? To me, it seems a little more diffuse, conceptual, whereas gratitude is like, I know what to say about that. I know how to enact that, you know. I know how to look for that in my life. And that can lead to more of a state of unconditional love, if that makes sense, just for me.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else? Because I think that what we should do is, I think Trinity should pick a card from the deck. We're going to keep the 2 out because they are for us all today. But you could pick a card there.
Okay, for me, or
Yeah.
is everybody gonna pick a card?
Yeah.
I can't overthink it. I start like getting anxious, but I'm like, which one should I pick? And I guess if I shuffle it, it's be nice. I got moon.
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 Okay.
That's funny.
That somebody giggles in the back.
Anonymous giggle.
There's moon. It's a group of goddesses
What a boy.
dancing. Yeah.
Huh?
A group of beautiful goddesses dancing.
It's okay if I join you guys on the couch.
Yeah.
I'm either like a floor sitter or a.
So
Yeah, I should say.
moon is in the natural mother category in this book.
You get that closer for them.
Yeah, I did once
Oh,
already.
okay.
Yeah.
There we
I would love to see it.
And, let's see. Okay, so moon is rhythm, and the shadow is chaos.
Interesting.
Yeah. And should we read it? Or some parts of it?
Well, I think the first practice is,
Okay.
before we read it,
Okay.
is to ask Trinity why she got that card.
Yeah.
Well, it's true.
Would you?
Well, it's funny. 2 things. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, 2 things came to mind. I just got a Bowron drum from a friend.
Woodring? Yeah.
I think there's different ways to say it, but I think Bowron.
Yeah.
Yeah, spelled with a D. But
One of those.
yes, one of those. And so I've been practicing, rhythm on that. I've always been into dancing and stuff, but the chaos part, I tend to have like so many things I'm interested in, and I've been really wanting to focus, and because that can lead to dispersed energy and a little bit of chaos, you know. And so I've been really working on kind of just narrowing things down. Like, I can still do those things, but right now I'm going to do this. And what are the, it's like work, kids, I'm going to, like, maybe I don't need to do swimming right now. I'm going to do hiking and yoga and like, I don't need to surf. Like, I have a lot of activities I like to do. And yeah, but so anyways, so the rhythm of life, and focus, and a little less chaos, that resonated with me for sure. Yeah, and then the women, been focusing on a lot more like sister energy, really.
Yeah. Does anyone want to throw anything in on the rhythm and chaos spectrum? And if Mr. Anonymous wants to say anything, we can still hear you.
You can do sign language.
Yeah.
Well, just as far as the chaos goes, I've been thinking about chaos much more positively recently as a thing in and of itself, and not necessarily because it's such a container for creativity to break out of chaos. So yeah, that's just what came up for me. Is that chaos can be a very creative template.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, part of the origin stories of almost every culture has the period of chaos, meaning the unbridled sea and all that lived in it,
Right.
Yeah. And then the sun up there, that fire. So we have those two alchemical elements, fire and water. kind of looking for some way to merge and bring forth life, which is what finally happens out of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was reading a book. Who's the author of it? From Chaos to Cosmos? Is that woman or is it the guy who wrote that? From Chaos to Cosmos, years and years ago. And I was totally stunned by the idea that there are these spirals, the spirals out in, in the galaxies, the spirals. And those spirals are like casting off
Right.
stuff on the outside. They go from the center, and then it gets less and less dense and less integrated as it gets to the outer part of the spiral, and those things kind of go off, especially if there's another body that is spiraling out there and it gets attracted. And so that is actually a process I read in this book of how our skin, our bodies regenerate, that they're all, do you know about this?
You mean in like subsequent lives?
That our
Or you mean like
cellular
right now,
structure
where our
works in that fashion. And so there is this element, this chaotic element where creativity and surprise and rebirth all happen out of that kind of exciting energy field. I've always loved the the symbol too, because it's like
symbol for chaos.
like that, huh? Arrows that you have your cross and then you have your double cross.
Yeah.
I didn't think about good double cross.
Double cross.
Yeah.
Is that a chaos symbol?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, with arrows pointing at the end.
So it's like this with
And then the
arrows.
cross thing, yeah.
Where's the cross?
In between you have this, you have this.
Crossed arrows,
And then another
double
one?
pointed
Yeah.
arrows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
And
so there's 8 spikes.
yeah, it's funny, I always thought it was 6, but it has to be 8.
and
There's no
also-
other way it could
right.
happen. And so then they have the points of the arrows on the end.
It's also representative of choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's also representative of choice, all the different directions
Yes,
that
yeah,
you could go.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So
Something that kind of comes to me about the chaos and rhythm that's reminding me of like expansion and contraction and like as part of nature. That it's like that
Yeah.
the rhythm, we get into a rhythm, and then if a rhythm can get too concretized and it's no longer supportive, so then some chaos is necessary to kind of break it up, and like some creativity of like, well, what wants to happen here? And
New
it
rhythm
was
can emerge out
too
of it.
rigid, and then you find a new rhythm with that new thing. And
totally.
there's the image of, have you seen this? There's a video that's been going around of these balls that are hanging and on different lengths, sorry, on different lengths of ropes, right? So they're the same size balls, same weight, and then there are these gradually small, shorter things, and then they move them and let them go at the same time. So it starts out they're all together, and then they start doing this kind of interesting thing like this, and then it gets totally chaotic, and they're all going different directions, and then they come back and they go back in this sinuous thing, and then they go back.
I want to see that.
Exactly like that. So there's something in that. To
Well,
me
it's
that
interesting
like,
because what it reminded me of, this conversation about rhythm and chaos, is the night before last when I heard Sweet Honey in the Rock at the
Really?
music tent in Mendocino. And there are 5 women singing a cappella. Yes, singing a cappella. And it's beautiful, but they also have
you can
a woman who does.
Okay. What this chair is more
welcome.
Hi.
So hi.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Too.
And so they also have a woman who signs beautifully, the most incredible signer that I have ever seen. She signs musically. And then there's one guy, and he plays a bass, big, deep bass. And he broke out in one part where he did a long solo, and he started like thump, 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 and built up to these trills, and then built up to this incredible explosion of sound on this bass that was all over the place.
Wow.
And I myself, sitting in my seat, could not help but move all over. I was like, dancing like all over the place. It felt so good. It raised energy in such a unique way. And then he brought us back in. So, you know, there's something about that rhythm and chaos that is.
So maybe for me, because I do a card that was rhythm and chaos, and that there's a gift there and a power there, or you know what I mean? It's okay to be able to
let go a little.
But to also be able to, and I can. I mean, that's But then to also, to be able to bring it back. Expansion and contraction. I like that.
Yeah. And it's moon, so there's the cycles of the moon in there too.
Right.
Which is
and of course, the way we see it in our culture, it's very female oriented because it covers our cycles. And so that's great.
And I'm probably not alone. With at this point, I know, when I'm fertile, I know, I know just from the feel of my body, and I know, so then when I'm, and there's definitely a contraction of or just more going within, and the expansion, this ovulation of being wanting more social, and all those things too.
Yeah. So I would because it just seems like the appropriate time to let y'all know the mission of the Magical Cauldron. And first of all, what is the Magical Cauldron? So do you want to speak to our Magical Cauldron 501?
501c3. Magical Cauldron is it's a nonprofit organization that we incorporated
a while ago.
Years ago, I think it was, but has been in existence for longer than that. But we put on events that are mystical in nature, and our mission statement is personal growth on the ecstatic edge. And so so
that has a little bit of this element, right? Of rhythm and chaos. I mean, personal growth on the ecstatic edge, so that kind of takes us out there to that place where, we can do something that is energetically uplifting and outreaching ourselves, in order to bring it back in. But it also suggests that when we are on a pathway of personal growth, that it doesn't have to also be a path of suffering in the larger sense, or the most painful sense of the word, that there's a choice in the way we perceive the discomforts of change. And so it has that aspect to it. And others, any you want to add or question or anything like that? So our events, Goddess Gather, two is one God and Goddess Gather together, and the Cauldron's Living Mysteries of Eleusis are all, and any other events, and there are other things that we present at Isis Oasis at different conferences and stuff.
Such as this right here. Such as this event right now.
But even Pantheacon and larger events. Everything has that kind of underpinning of personal growth on the ecstatic edge. So you can have a little fun while you're learning how to, while you're shifting your own priorities and making choices in your lives that you want to move towards. So, Yeah, I think we will do some more card work, but I think we ought to just go ahead and sing our song.
Okay.
Oh, did Camille get smudged?
She did.
Oh, thank you.
It happened all by itself.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So we practiced the song last night, so whoever was here when we sang it.
Oh, Emily.
Do we have a copy of it or anything?
Hmm?
Do we have a copy of it?
No, but it's easy. You may know it already.
I may know.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for release. Circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the future generations, keep the circle whole. Okay, we're gonna do it a couple more times, but I'm gonna tell you the words now. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace. That's easy, right? Freedom and peace. For all of us imprisoned, circle for release. Now that's not just that imprisonment that happens in our very unfortunate system in America, but in ourselves, in our own makeup, those prisons that we create for ourselves that prevent us from, really letting our soul and spirits dance together, And so for all of us imprisoned, circle for release. Circle for the planet, circle for each soul. For the future generations, keep the circle whole. So that's talking about the 7 generations, as we did talk last night about the 7 generations, both preceding and in the future.
Yeah, somebody's here. Hello. Hi, Ashra.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hi there. Oh, you guys are down there visiting too, or I'm confused where we are, but anyway, just hello. Quick hello. I'll be here for a few minutes.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
You're
we're-
dropping in
Just
20
need
minutes long, Ashar. You can
Yeah, we're
join
gonna
in if you
sing
know it.
now.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Circle round
For freedom,
circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the future generations. Keep the circle whole. Price is the charm, and this is the third one. So, circle round. I want to feel it. I mean, it's not just a bunch of words we're sticking together here, right? Yeah, reach into that place where you're really looking at what you want in this life that we live together. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the future generations, keep the circle whole. And so it is. Oh, nicely done. So thank you. And now, just for the sake of getting a few poetic words in and casting a circle, I'm going to do a little circle casting. This is from Family Helping 2013. So here we are.
Wow.
We're going to envision someone actually, moving around the circle. Do you still? Just for, we're not doing it because it's too much furniture. Get it out. I cast a circle all around, from many paths to family ground, ancestors, forebears, grandparents all, you made the way. We heard your call. From those of us who've gathered here to kith and kin, both far and near, we gather dreams within the heart. Our will, our trust gives dreams a start. Guardian spirits, we call you now. Safeguard our circle, witness our vow. Rooted in lineage, revealing true self, we offer the world the essence of wealth. And so it is.
So it
So
is.
it is. And I'm going to go ahead and light our candle. And
Okay.
here's the altar. You can kind of see it there.
All right. I want to, we're going to do another card. We'll let Camille draw a card. We drew a card earlier. You didn't draw a card. You can draw a card if you want to. Anonymous didn't draw a card. You can draw a card.
Okay, if I can get some tea.
Yeah. We should have tea. It is a tea
It is
party.
a tea party.
All right, I'll take a sip. My
Have some
goodness.
tea. We can have a little shift here. Oh,
This is, this is bay nut. And coffee, it's full of bay nuts. Yeah, I'm not gonna call it coffee. It's a bay nut beverage.
They did coffee.
Yes, it's,
back to our regularly
Scheduled
scheduled programming in just a moment.
Yeah, you have one.
This isn't very strong.
No, it's had a
We can
We can actually
smudge the
pause the
screen.
recording. for a
Yeah,
minute.
let's do this. Let's smudge Ashura. If she,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
you want me to? Okay.
We're introducing you, Ashra, to virtual smudging.
Does anyone
So
wanna try
as
to pull it
she puts the smoke onto the
You want,
screen, you
Use a cup.
do that over the crown.
Let me get
Here
your
we go.
No, bay nut, the bay tree.
Legal nut juice?
Yeah. What you get?
Easter, does it say?
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure.
Sure.
I don't know those kinds.
I'll try some. Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
We'll do this in a little bit. We'll
Oh, there's a
investigate.
case. You can have one.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, it smells good.
I put bananas.
That's good.
Well, that's different.
Let me have a little taste.
There's so many different kinds of coffee.
Yeah, I'd like to
I'm
try.
gonna make it
Get
super,
the-
super strong. It's gonna steep it a little longer.
Is it also a stimulant?
It is.
Sandy blend.
Good.
Okay. They're drinking, what is
It
it?
has like a bitter bay nut.
Bay
I probably put a little too
nut,
much honey in it.
Coffee alternative.
Yeah, they
Like roasted bay nuts brewed like
yeah,
coffee.
they're roasted and then you chop.
So before I start, I think we could come back to
Right.
this,
Yeah,
but maybe we should at least hear what the meaning
okay.
thing is.
So we've been, the participants are have an opportunity to pull a goddess card from the Mother's Wisdom deck. And so our friend Trinity pulled the moon card earlier, and that was about rhythm and chaos. And then Camille, she drew Westre, or Esther. And this is from the Divine Mother section of the book. And it's shadow and celebration, and the shadow is austerity.
Austerity, celebration and austerity. So we will,
For this-
we'll do a discussion of that in a little
Yes,
bit,
sure.
but let's do something else for a minute
Yes,
and then we'll come back. Is that all right? All right.
How do you pronounce that?
Australia.
But it's like, that's like Ostara, like East, like.
Yes,
Easter.
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
But how do you pronounce it? Easter, Oster,
Well,
Esther?
you can say so the name Esther actually came from it's Westerday, I think is how they say it. It's like West and
Oh, really?
yeah.
But it is Easter.
Yeah. Yes, and Easter
That's
and
what
yeah.
Easter came out of.
Yeah.
Or Ostara.
Ostara.
Is the- yeah.
So celebration,
Yeah.
of course we celebrate, see, I'm gonna start talking about it.
And
Better
you
bet.
don't need to.
All right. So, I mean, what's not to celebrate at Ostara? I mean, it's the time when spring comes to the earth. It's our Korathaleia, our celebration of eternal springtime,
spring
not just on
equinox.
the earth, but within ourselves, so that we can devote ourselves to beginner's mind, to coming into experience from a fresh viewpoint, from all the things we cherish about being children. We have an event called Korathaleia in the springtime that celebrates this very time of year. And it is part of we call it part of the lesser mysteries, and it's also part of the greater mysteries because it's part of the lesser mysteries. The lesser mysteries, as the feast is going to be in October, are still part of the greater mysteries. Should people choose to initiate, because the festivals after that are the initiation ones. But there are mysteries in these first two that also are important and vital to initiation, and also are wonderful even if you don't initiate. So everyone can come to those two. We've done Korathaleia at Isis Oasis for 3 years now. It's our original festival and celebration, and each year it gets sweeter and more wonderful.
Maybe for those who don't know about Koray,
Yes.
you could speak to that a little. And
I will.
also just I know you, Ashura, know about Ostara, but in case folks are watching this later and you're not familiar, Ostara is the spring equinox, and that's the name for it on the Celtic wheel of the year.
Well, now instead of the feast, I'm going to talk about Korathaleia and Koray for just a minute.
Let's hear about Corey.
Yeah, about Koray,
We all
because
love
Korathaleia is Koray's birthday, essentially, when the earth celebrates a rejuvenation and eternal springtime. Koray, however, is the light and springtime aspect of Demeter's daughter. Demeter is the goddess we celebrate at the feast in the fall, coming up in October, in what we call the Feast of Abundance, because Demeter is the mother of earth, the mother of all things on earth. All the rest of the aspects, the underworld, the overworld, the sea, all went to men. The earth went to the one woman in this tight-knit family. Well, there are others, but these are the vital ones. And her daughter. Now, her daughter's name is Koray.
Oh, okay.
That's the daughter's name. Today, if you look up Koray online, I'm afraid she's all but disappeared, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to create a celebration of that aspect. Because even online it says, oh, it's another name for Persephone. Everyone knows Persephone. But Persephone is the dark aspect of the Earth Mother. She's the underworld aspect. Persephone is another name for Koray, but Koray is not another name for Persephone. Koray is the original youthful maiden who, in the hymn to Demeter by Homer, gets abducted by Hades and taken against her will by virtue of an agreement between the Zeus and Hades, without consulting the mother, they make an agreement, and Hades abducts, comes on his chariot, sweeps her off, and takes her down to the underworld. Now, there's a lot more to the story that I'd love to go into, but I can't do it right now because it would take a long time. We get off on another discussion, but it's a very vital discussion. It's an important one, and that's why we do the Living Mysteries of Eleusis, in order not just to inform ourselves of the mythos, but of a storyline that was the beginning of 5th century Greece, was the beginning of Western civilization. And it is a story that runs in our psyches and in our everything we do in our everyday life without even being aware of it. Our politics, our justice system is Athenian, all from the Greeks, Greeks. And I won't get into the whole history with the Romans and stuff and what happened. But the fact of the matter is that for many reasons, we find today that Corey was abducted, not just because she was a pretty girl, as Annie DeFranco said, not just a pretty girl, but much more. And we know from our own sense of who we are, that not just a pretty girl, something more than that. And there are many, many lines of investigation along these lines. And some of them have to do with patriarchal, encroachment and taking and abduction, and not only of the body, but of the mind and spirit and the reins of the civilization. And some people feel that the time of abduction was not just, as they say in something, 9 days or 9 months of pregnancy or 9 years, but maybe 9 millennia. Maybe it had to do with the Ice Age itself, like with the time when the land became barren in our history, and there was nothing. So, because that's what happened. When she got abducted, when Corey got abducted, Demeter, whose celebration it is in the fall, said, "Nothing will grow on the face of the earth until my daughter is returned to me." Now, this is not the mysteries I'm sharing right now, because the mysteries have to do with personal experience, and you have to initiate to really assimilate what that is. But this is a story that is part of our culture, a part of our everyday experience, our attraction to underworld things such as gems, minerals. We have to take it out of the earth, right? Because it's so precious. Greed, sexual grabbing. Now, Corey is known as the maiden of eternal springtime. In other words, it's that thing that lives in us, that innocence that lives in us, that we want to nurture, and is hardly nurtured in this world. So that's why the work we do in initiation is really, really important. For not just the 7 generations that are behind us, but the 7 generations to come. And so, Kenneth, do you want to add anything? Because I restrain myself from telling you more, except I want to urge you to come to the Feast of Demeter. And this is the time when you get to really grok the gift of Demeter's abundance on the face of the earth, and enjoy it. And so that's the first step into initiation. So go ahead to add something, y'all.
Just for informational, if somebody is, maybe listening to the recording and is not, or even hear it, it's not, we learned about these myths in, middle school. Like, when was that? Or even like elementary school, right? And most of us are like, oh yeah, wasn't that Demeter, wasn't that this? Was it? So, but the Homeric hymn it's online. You can read it. It's beautiful. She just turned the
Oh, okay. She turned her video off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So read the myth, because the myth is gorgeous, the Homeric hymn, and that's available. So I just think, just want to offer that
it's good preparation
it's
for coming
good preparation.
to the event.
And also, I'm telling you, I just got big yak about how I don't get angry. You know? But I get very, very annoyed at this putting down of the Kore. That everyone says, oh yeah, I know who it is, it's Persephone. That's Demeter's daughter. And this innocence that we all have within us, that we are born into, and is our birthright, and is important for us to expand upon, to really understand and practice, is all but demolished. And so is the knowledge of who and what Kore is. And so that comes in the springtime, but Demeter and Kore will be there in the fall.
All right. As far as that innocence of youth, it's like, especially in this day and age, in order for that to come forward, there needs to be somebody holding a container for that. And there needs to be somebody guarding the perimeter. And when you're thinking about the two gods conspiring to have Kore kidnapped, I'm just wondering if that was a point where the masculine gave up that job of holding space for the divine feminine,
Thomas.
within which it could be and radiate. So this is all part of the what we're trying to reclaim.
Well, that just opened my heart so much to hear you
I was
say
just on
that.
fire, just like feeling that, like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
That's great. I was at a women's sweat recently, traditional sweat, and at first when I got there were some men there, and I thought, oh, well, usually at women's gatherings there's no men, but they were like tending the fire, getting the food ready, like they were supporting, and like they weren't inside the sweat, but they were supporting, and I was like, wow, this is really cool, like and like, I mean, how many times do women like support a man, if you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was really beautiful.
Yeah, and when you were talking, Thomas, about that, I couldn't help but think of the children in cages on the border. I mean, it's hard to even speak without tearing up about that, but that's how intense our assimilation of this energy has been over the years, over the decades, over the time.
Centuries.
Yeah, centuries, yeah.
So, have you, I don't know if any of you have the book Circle Round?
Oh.
Okay.
She's in it.
Oh, you're in it? Because of the retelling, I read the book, and there's a retelling of the story where she's, and I didn't know, I love the name and the word Kore, and I didn't know much about the difference, and I just thought they were, different names, or, so I always just thought Persephone, and I was like, who's this Kore aspect? I've been like really curious, so that's interesting that you're bringing that up. But the idea of the young woman being curious and that maybe, coming into her womanhood and her like queendom down there, and and so, but that's not the original myth or the original story, right?
Well, that's why it's Living Mysteries. And that's a part I really wanted to talk a little about today. Because that living aspect that the Cauldron has claimed, this living mysteries, the living part being a very, very important part of it. Yeah. And I believe that the living part goes back to original times, because it was close-knit, the people who did the mysteries and the families who pilgrimaged toward where it all was a tribe. Some happened outside, like you say, with people supporting, and others went, into the mystery thing. But at the Peloponnesian War, the question on the battlefield, someone died, is, have you been to Eleusis? It was important because of what happened, what transpired in the underworld after the abduction. Now, if you take innocence, the way we know Kore is, and I can't help but think, I haven't read anything that supports Kore as Cure, but come on, our core, our core is that. That is where we really want to live, with that trust, with that innocence, with approaching things with an open mind and an open heart and high-spirited and joy, not to mention joy and love, And, but when Kore gets abducted, she doesn't lose that aspect of herself. She doesn't turn into the evil queen. No, it is precisely the fact that she has all those elements and she sees the others who are there, all wanting to return to the mother, all wanting to come back to earth, their loved ones, to breathe again and live again. And she has compassion. That innocence and love in her changes and transforms into compassion. And so when she is able to achieve her return, she is doing it for all humankind. And in my opinion, this is the beginning of a reincarnation for us all. So that's a choice in some way of what you care to believe in, but none of us know the day nor time, nor do we know the mystery of what it is once passing occurs. We only have our practices and our beliefs to take us into the beyond. And so that's part of it, the ancient Greeks and what has come forth. Now there are kind of more what can I say, esoteric notions about this practice beside the patriarchy coming on at that time with the decision of the two male gods who don't even think to inquire with Demeter.
Or tell her where her daughter is.
Yeah, or even say, hey, Hades would like a bride, like whatever. None of that happens. So that we'll say is the patriarchy, overtaking things. But why was it so important for them and to do that? And part of the thing, I can't think of the word right now, where the lineage just passed through the female.
The matrilineal.
Yeah, matrilineal.
No, that's not the one. Parthenogenesis.
Oh.
Where actually that the goddesses, the sacred goddesses, could achieve birth without male penetration. And some storylines interpret this story as the men feeling, we're going to, because this is her coming of age. This is Kore's coming of age. And in some storylines, they were preparing Kore to become a Demeter in the next, because this is the temple of Demeter and the cult of Demeter. And so this is where this genesis of sacred goddesses was formed and held and contained. And so that's just a pretty esoteric side of the story. It doesn't parthenogenesis, but if you want to know the story of Mary giving virgin birth, I just, there it is, right?
There are themes.
There are themes that occur. A virgin birth of Jesus, And so these are all connected. All connected. All these stories are the same story. And so, anyway, we started talking about Kore.
Easter.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I urge you to start telling people, name your daughter Kore, bring Kore back.
Changing my name to big
responsibility.
Yeah. And also use her name when you're speaking of that aspect.
Yeah.
These aren't the rights. People think it's the rights of Hades and Persephone. No, it's not the rights of Hades and Persephone. It's the rights of Demeter and Kore. It's the temple of Demeter, and it's Homer's.
So her name was Kore, and then when she's in the inner world,
she becomes Persephone
Yeah.
in her queendom.
So,
All right, we'll do
Okay.
the card and then we're gonna.
so West today, celebration and the shadow is austerity. When West today appears in your life, rejoice. The Germanic goddess of fertility and spring, West today celebrates having made it through another winter to welcome the return of light and life. And Westerate's hour is dawn, symbolizing eternal possibility. Dressed in white, she ushers in new energy and calls for putting aside the day today.
What is the light and shadow words?
Celebration and
Austerity.
austerity.
Isn't austerity
Austerity.
kind of smaller, making it smaller, holding back or something?
Yeah.
Austerity, it's like,
Mhm.
I mean, it's the practice, the political practice these days, you know, over in,
Don't spend any money.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
cheap,
Yeah.
you know, tight, yeah.
Set aside, it says, set aside puritanical beliefs about celebration, tempting the gods into punishment. Celebration, on the contrary, delights the goddess. It proclaims the perfection of all the seasons in life. Celebration may not always come easy. Do you postpone celebration for a day in the future when you will have more time, more money, more reasons to celebrate? If you have been saving your merriment for a rainy day,
Spend it now.
Westray proclaims that the day has dawned.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
October 18th, 19th, 20th.
we
That's
forgot
like,
to ask Camille,
Yeah.
why do you think
Oh,
you
right.
drew this card?
Why?
Why do I think I do this? Well, my life is really changing because my husband just passed away about a month and a half ago.
Yes, I didn't realize last night that it was so recent. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, so I've been caregiving for him for 5 or 6 years, a long time, and working too. So I feel like there's a lot of release now because I can let him go, and now I have to go through that. But so I think that's about celebration. Like now I have my life back
I like
after
that.
all this amount of care, and
Mhm.
yeah, that was hard these last several
Yes.
years. So I still don't know what it feels like not to be a caregiver because I've done it for so long.
Yeah.
It'll take
Yes.
a while for me to get a feeling of that, but it's nice not to have that part of it for sure.
I had a domestic partner who died last November of COPD.
Yeah, mine too.
So,
Yeah. Similar thing, yeah. Yeah, so I feel like I have a lot of space now to like explore and celebrate and, but grieving too, so
yeah,
that's kind of in the mix, so,
all right.
yeah.
So I want to, there's something in all the practices, I mean, all the presentations I do, and I do a number of them at Isis Oasis, where the rites will be held in October, and at several of their main events, especially Symposium and Convocation. We did that, we did an offering last spring. Lucera and I presented a really great ritual, and people really liked and so, but everything that I've ever presented there and everywhere, I end up titling it, whatever the title is, and then, but what does it matter? What does it matter that we do these things, or think these things, or practice these things, or do our personal growth, or enjoy it, or whatever? Why? Well, it matters, and I mean, that's the important part. That's why it's living mysteries, because these ways that we practice that change us create the life that is to be manifest as we do that, as we breathe, as we make our choices. I mean, whether we are conscious of it or not, everything we say, everything we think, everything we do, everything, it becomes our life. That is what happens. We are creating our lives. And we can either make choices in a positive way that give us a life that we want to live and work towards that, or we can just say, oh, the hell with it, and, you know, not, and have a miserable time of it, you know, or whatever, or share a lot of grief. Now, the practice of the living mysteries, like the other night with the sweet Honey in the Rock, they sang a song. One of the women sang this incredible song about the water. She went to Jamaica and spent a lot of time in the water, and she was just describing how nourished she felt, and that water was free to get in. She just had to get in it, you know, and wade in it as you guys did the other day, or submerge in it as I did in the pond a few weeks ago, or, you know, go out in the ocean, and you feel the nurturing energy of that. You feel restored from it. And so her song was all about the living water. And I thought, well, yeah, the living water, we have the living mysteries, because if we think of the elements of our lives, we have to talk about water, earth, air, and fire. And they are all living entities. If we, you know, think of it that way, they are living, and they nourish us. We can't even walk on the face of the earth without breath, you know. So that's a living mystery. And certainly we can't get our food without the earth. That's a living earth that nurtures us, feeding us in that way, right? And so all the elements are like that. The fire that really changes us, and you know, the water, the purity of the water that we drink. That's life. We can't. We learned as kids, you can do without food for X number of days. I think they used to say 30, and without water for 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, but they didn't mention how it was sacred, those things. But it gave us life. You know, those elements, and so. These living mysteries are about this. You can talk about traditions. We talked about the story already. And they always say, oh, the mysteries you can't talk about them because they're secret. But it's not really secret. It's mystery. It's mysterious because it has to do with experience. You can't, I could tell you exactly what happened or what's going to happen. I'm not going to, because it would be spoiling some surprises that you're going to really like. But it isn't those things that really are it's the experience of being with the people who are there and learning. And not just learning intellectually, you drew the card, but learning, you know, within our body. We grok it within our body, within our breath, within our, you know, all that we do and think. And so we come out changed. And so that's a living mystery. It always was, and it always will be. So some people will present the mysteries, but they do it according to the book. It's all very interesting. We learn about the Greek gods, and it's wonderful, especially for young people, I think, to know that. But the real changes occur when you initiate into the mysteries, you know, and live them with us.
And as the mysteries change us, we change them.
Yes,
there's
exactly.
a between that we know in our lives.
Yeah.
We know that that as we engage, as we go through things, we're changed. But so does everything that we touch. It's changed by the process.
And one of the things about these mysteries is that, you know, I've been involved with them for going on 20 years, and we always incorporate, you know, whatever's happening in the current social moment. You know, there's all this stuff going on with Trump and everything that he's trying to give away, and you know, there's a way to find a correlation in that in these old mythological stories.
Correlation.
A correlation.
A correlation.
But it's not just that that's interesting, but it's empowering. because we're able to take these things that, on a certain level feel very mundane to us, just like surviving the news cycle. And like, well, how does this relate to this? And how can we bring this into our practice and into our magic and into our community and actually support shift and happen? So that's part of what's so yummy about it.
Okay, well, you didn't take a car. Would you like to take a
Sure.
car?
Hang on just a minute. Ashara, are you still there? I see your name displayed, but I'm not seeing you or hearing you. So,
There she is.
okay. Would you like to draw a card?
Sure.
Okay.
Just to let you know, my name is Ashara. There's a goddess, but that's not my name. It's Ashara. So
Sorry for mispronouncing.
yeah, Ashara. Yeah. No worries. Yes, I'd love to pull a card.
I'm gonna tilt this towards the altar, and I'm seeing I need to plug in my computer.
Do
The
you want
battery.
someone else to do the hand?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm
you
gonna
wanna
get
do
the
it?
plug. So yeah.
Tom, you want me to do it? Who would you like to pull your card, Shara?
I think Tom is a very good choice.
Okay, so he's
Stop. Right there. Right there.
cards,
I thought.
and then you can tell him when to stop.
Yeah. A little bit towards me. Right there. Yeah. That one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe backwards.
Can you see it?
What's it?
Not the word.
It says Demeter.
Oh my
So perfect.
Can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
There she is.
She's beautiful. And what's there's a trail of something that she's facing that it looks like birds rising or something.
It's flowers or sheaves of wheat or.
Oh, nice.
Or
And
both.
she's holding a torch, I see.
She's holding a torch, right?
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for choosing Demeter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You called her in, Shara.
Yeah. Demeter and Chloride.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Did you talk to Daddy?
I like that.
Okay.
Perfect. That's their flowers are popping up.
Okay, so Demeter, the positive side is loss, where the shadow side is attachment.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Wow.
Ah.
I think we're gonna have to take a little look at this. Tori Amos says, and I held hands with sorrow, and I danced with her, and we giggled a lot. That's cute.
Yeah.
Can you read it again? It was
Yeah.
so much. Here.
And I held hands with sorrow, and I danced with her, and we giggled a lot. So I am going to read a little bit of this, and I hope I don't find too much disagreement. Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, abundance, and fertility, also presides over the underworld and the dead. This is interesting. Her watch brings bountiful crops, rich soil, and trees that hang heavy with fruit. But while she brings life, she also brings it away. In ancient Greece, those who had crossed over were called Demeter's people. This primordial earth mother comforted the dead, receiving them back into her ample bosom. As a mother, Demeter is no stranger to loss. Her own story unfolds dramatically. See,
Yeah, right, here it is, I'm sure. I don't even have to have read it.
as I'm going to just substitute Corey for Persephone because it says Persephone.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, it just
Yeah, you
irritates
gotta
the
fix
hell
this.
out of me. Irritates the hell out of me.
Call this person.
Yeah. As Corey, her daughter, is swallowed by the earth, not the earth, and forced into betrothal with Hades, god of the underworld. Demeter, unable to find her daughter, is driven mad with grief. She embarks on a frantic search that lasts for 9 days, the symbolic 9 of pregnancy. So we already talked about this.
Yeah.
Finally, naked, hungry, and barefoot, she's reunited with her daughter. When Persephone's father, Zeus, strikes the bar. Oh, I'm sorry. She got out because Zeus struck a bargain with her abductor.
With ladies.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's not the way it went down. Not then and not now. I love the parts and the stories in this book, but that one I just can't.
Yeah.
Now, Ashara,
Yes, darling.
you're going to have to make your own peace with this card, right?
Absolutely.
Know the story. And
Yes.
that is not the right telling of it, right?
Yep. Yep.
We'll see you at the feast and we'll straighten things out.
But do you have a sense,
I,
Ashara, why you picked this card?
oh yeah, because it's me. I dance with the sorrows of life, and one of the messages I received is, "I am Oasis, daughter of clouds." As I was driving around in the back roads of where I live in Canada, and I just received this very clear message to explain to me that I am where people come to rest and to restore and renew and replenish, and then they move on. And I had been having trouble letting people go. And so it helped me to really understand, and learning to let go is my life's work, and sorrow is my constant companion. So I would say it was perfect.
It is perfect. And so, as a first mentorship assignment, I think you should rewrite according to this for us, and we'll put it in the book.
Yes.
Okay.
Replace those pages.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll just paste it right over. Sure.
yeah. Because
Send me what they do. Send me what they do have, and I will rewrite it. Just copy it, and
that's great.
I'll take a photograph.
no worries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved your telling of a loss and what is the attachment?
Loss and attachment.
Yeah, so I loved your telling of it. It was very, very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. My sister poet.
What'd you say?
My sister poet.
Oh, indeed. Indeed. Okay. Do we want to share something more about loss and attachment? Of course, we've all had experience. How does it?
I know, I saw that.
How does it express itself in today's world? Let's look at that.
Well, I think like in a similar way that we've lost the innocence, the core. We're so bad at grieving in this culture. You know,
Yeah.
we'd much rather forget about it or get over it or drink or distract ourselves. And so everything just festers in the underworld. You know, it doesn't get properly metabolized.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something else that we need to recover, reclaim,
Yeah.
reincarnate.
Yeah. And we practice this like grief by, you know, letting it like just disorient us rather than, you know, indulging in it, like, or really being in the midst of it and honoring it the way it needs to be honored. And often alone when it happens, people are alone. I mean, everyone is alone in their grief, of course, you know, but alone in many ways because, yeah, like, what do you do with it?
It's not safe in our culture to grieve.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me of Martin Fractal, the minor shaman, the grief and praise. Yeah,
Definitely.
love that. And just how, like, if you have like a tribal culture where, you know, if you lose somebody and you need to be like crying in the streets, or like you just need to be in your bed for like however long, like grieving, that you can actually do that. If other people are going to be like watching your kids and making sure that things get done.
Yes.
But if you, like
Sending food, getting food.
if you don't have, like, if you're a single mom and you have death in your family, and you're like, you need to feed the kids, you need to go to work, like you have to shove it down a little bit so you can maintain.
Yeah.
So our culture isn't set up to really, to support people in their grief.
Long ago, I heard Martine speak when he was a lot younger and not as practiced. He came with his guitar to Mendocino with gallery books and told stories and, played his guitar. Fabulous. He's so charismatic and wonderful. And, but he told the story of Dia de los Muertos in the town, what's that town? Apple. What is it?
Atitlan?
Yeah. And he said that the day would come and, they'd been preparing for days and get the food and the grandmother's there and, the grandson comes home and she says, have you cried for Uncle so-and-so? And he said, oh, yeah. Yeah, I already went to the cemetery. I cried a lot, Grandma. And she said, no, you did not cry enough. You get back there and you cry some more, or I'm going to give you something to cry. I'll never forget it. He was so charming. I love his teachings. Yeah, very profound.
Well, once I had a grieving ceremony with some friends. Like this one woman brought it up, and there were just 3 of us, but we got together and we did this, 4 directions, and we grieved for what we had lost. It was really good. And we could state each thing, just go through it. I've never done that again, but that was a wonderful thing. And now, like, I think about, like I miss my husband sometimes, but it was really hard with him too. Even when he was more functional, but of course he hasn't been functional for the last many years. I mean, not very functional. And so, that attachment, like you said, the grief and the attachment, like, what am I attached to? Like, and then I talked to a friend of mine the other day, and she said, he's not really gone, he's around you. And that made me feel better for some reason, because I thought, well, it just feels like he's totally gone, and I miss like his presence or his sense of humor or things like that. But she said he's right there. He's just not there physically, but he's right there. That kind of made me feel better, because I could kind of get a sense of that. But yeah, that attachment and the grief, like, what is that attachment about? Because I don't know. Everything wasn't always good.
Yeah,
And it wasn't always easy.
Well, outside of the circle, I would look forward to having a chat with you, because you're saying some things like, well, absolutely, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So,
but there's a lot of things.
But there's a lot of loss because it's been so many years.
Yeah. So how are we doing?
It's 5:45, about, so maybe 15 more minutes.
Yeah.
Wrapping up.
So I usually leave Teas with Motherbear open to questions. And when I say questions, I mean, and this is probably a more fascinating feature in the larger crowds when I've done it, because people just want to know something about an old gal like me, and so they'll taunt me with questions sometimes.
Personal questions? Personal questions?
Yeah.
You?
But I'm up for it, and I try and answer whatever. So I don't want to close that option down. It just goes, there's a few of us, so if there's anything you'd like to ask me, feel free to do so, and I'll do my level best to answer in some kind of way that.
So, and it could be about the mysteries, or it could
The
be
mysteries,
about,
or personal, or life, or whatever. Just for the sake of record, I had a birthday in June 8th. That's my birthday. I was born in 1937, so I turned 82 in the beginning of June. And I've been in practice for a long time. So.
I don't know if I can think of anything.
Well, that's all right.
I have lots of questions.
Oh, yeah.
I have to hold myself. Well, I am curious what happens at the initiation.
What happens at the initiation?
Yeah, I mean,
You hear a mysterious chuckle in the background.
I don't know what, like, yeah, I don't know anything.
Well, I will tell you things that I can tell you, and not because, as I say, there's so much experience and also so much basis in the first two, you know, in the lesser mysteries of the Demeter's temple and then the Kore's birthday party, Koretaleia in spring. So there's a lot of, in those two things that happen that build toward that, and also in between those, there's mentorships and, you know, challenges, like things for you to do. You know, we try and guide it along what you're able to make time to do. We don't burden you by putting you on a 20-unit college course or anything. But, you know, to the extent that, you know, we want to expand this experience for everyone, we prefer for it not to like go dead in the months that ensue. So we try, and we have an online presence. So there's that part.
Okay.
But then when you initiate, like in this fall and in the spring, there'll be quite a few people, more than we can possibly initiate. We can only initiate top 13, between 9 and 13 people are what we can initiate. For that reason, the whole 4 festival and in between experience of initiation is a little pricey, because this isn't a catch as catch can affair. It's not a potluck of any sort. It is well tuned and well appointed. We have a catership. We're not going to give, you know, a Demeter's feast anything but the highest regard for what we eat there, you know, and how it is. So there's a catering, there's the beautiful venue of Isis Oasis, and then there's as many priesthood as there are pilgrims. So you have, it's like a 1-to-1 deal, except that we don't do it. You get a 13 to 13 deal or a, you know,
Sometimes it's 13 to 1, right?
you know, like that. And so that's part of it. Now, there are, how can I say what happens in the initiation? Someone else help me out here. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil.
Oh, so you want us to say too much?
The goddesses and gods will be in attendance. And,
I think it's fair to say that, you know, whatever issues you bring to it, you know, those are what get reflected through the mysteries.
Yeah.
And the priests and the priesthood are also very sensitive to that, so that it's sort of like we bring each pilgrim along, you know, whatever the course of healing or actualization, self-actualization it is, it's already happened. So it sort of gets turbocharged those 18 months.
And it's through the lens of this particular myth.
Right.
Right, so if you've ever worked with, I mean, fairy tales or myths, they have there's symbols there that echo in us. And so there's an opportunity, an amazing opportunity to really connect with those symbols and see what resonates in you and what part of you gets lit up.
And so in that way, there's shamanic aspect to the mysteries. I mean, it's a mystery, so.
Did you say shamanic?
Yeah, shamanic aspect to it.
It's you have a cohort, and
I'm not saying you have to take drugs either, because that is, I mean, it has been a part of mysteries for you know, many eons for many people, but it's not, we don't.
Right, in the ancient rites that you'll read that.
I've experienced shamanic type journey.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Drugs.
Yeah.
So
I'm just assuring you, because if you go read about it online and it's like, oh, and then they took this substance and that's what it was, and it's like, it can be other than that.
So good, you
Sorry.
So you'll have a cohort of other pilgrims, and you become very close with those people. And I'd say
It's
some of those
amazing.
people that they'll be some of your best friends for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Because of what you go through
Intimate
together. It's so
community.
deep and transformative, and it's a real shift in your perspective with life, I think. And
So things that things that I'm working on, like wanting to manifest or change or heal in myself, that there's a lot of work around self-actualization, it sounds like.
Yes,
And learning.
yeah,
don't forget the ecstatic part.
Right.
We have a good time.
Right.
I was gonna say
I mean, it's not like
That sounds like.
there will be
you
games.
can deal with it.
There will be
But you
games.
can have a good time too.
Serious
Blogs,
work and,
poetry.
yeah.
Entertainment.
Entertainment of
Play
a
and-
rare.
Yes.
So is it more like in Mendocino, or is it here, or is it?
The first two festivals will be at Isis Oasis. The one in October is at Isis Oasis in Geyserville,
I see, good.
which is
Northern
probably,
4 hours from
Yeah.
there on the
Alright.
101.
Are these
Yeah.
weekend
I don't know
chunks?
where that is.
huh?
They're weekend chunks
Yeah.
time. So, and then
Right.
Most of them are like from Friday afternoon to Sunday mid-afternoon.
Okay.
Although the first one, or maybe even both of the initiation ones, you have to take an extra day.
Okay. That's
It's
fine.
a
If I
Friday.
plan ahead, I
You
can
mean the
make
third
my
and the fourth ones?
Yeah,
The last two.
yeah.
Friday.
But they're more like 5 days than 3, right?
Okay.
The third.
With the Friday
Yeah,
and
third.
Mondays included.
Yeah.
That will be nice.
Getting there like Thursday night.
And the final one is probably at Isis Oasis, although I kind of leave that hanging a little bit till I see exactly where we'll be taking you to in the third one. The third one happens elsewhere.
Where you'll be taking us to spiritually or?
No, physically. The third festival does not occur at Isis Oasis.
Okay.
It occurs at somewhere else, but
Somewhere
else. Another destination.
Oh.
It's a destination festival.
Sorry, you're looking into this as well?
I don't know, I didn't know that it was like that, so I don't know.
Okay.
Right.
The October festival you can come to without committing
Mhm.
to the cycle. Although if you choose to commit, you get a little added stuff going on, but it still is going to be delightful even if you don't.
And then is it every couple months?
Oh, it's
The equinoxes.
around equinoxes.
Around equinox.
October is not an equinox, but the spring event is around the equinox, and so is the next one.
They'll all be seasonal, so in spring.
So
and fall.
every 6
Yeah.
months, we'll say,
Uh-huh.
Two-
half a
it's
year
two-year process.
between.
I see,
Mhm.
okay.
So this fall, next spring, next fall, and the
Mhm.
following spring.
Yeah. Okay.
And I feel like I want to say one more thing, just something that you said. Yes, you'll bring in what you're working on in your life, but my experiences, both myself having gone through it and, being a guide a few rounds of other people, sometimes it's not what you think you're working on,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And when we're talking about working on, it isn't like a college class.
Right.
It has to do with a kind of more of an emotional and
spiritual.
poetic, spiritual reality,
Imaginal,
metaphysical reality, more than an intellectual. You may want to bring your intellect to it, and we all do, but it's not the most. It's not the one with the most staying power.
Right.
Mhm.
That's true.
I think I should probably do. Is there anything more questioning or anything like that?
Well, I want definitely want like a write-up of like prices and things like that.
Yeah, but we won't do that in the circle.
Yeah, we don't need to do that here,
Just get your email, we'll send it all to
yeah.
you.
Okay.
I'd like to share, I think I should do a puppy though. Yeah.
In closing.
Yeah, I was actually gonna do the, in closing, I was gonna do Holy Mother Earth, but I don't think we wanna do both, but
Mhm.
the Hail Mary
Mm.
is another short one, but we'll see.
Right.
I'll do this one, above, this is a calling that I wrote a year or so ago. Above, below, and within. Left arm raised, all hail to thee, all that is above. Left arm raised to touch the sky, we call to all that soar and fly. Great winged ones, cranes, owl, and dove, dance among the clouds above. With drifting puffs of changing shapes, we gaze, reflect, and scry our fates. The sky, the stars, the moon and sun transmit that we are all and none. A part of the multiverse we are, water, air, earth, and fiery star. Through our breath, Earth's atmosphere, we plunge on down through shadowed fear. Be here now. All hail to thee, all that is below. Right arm reaching to touch the earth. This is the hallowed place of birth. The topmost level, fairy blessed. We journey inward, earth compressed. The weight of gravity, strata of rock, water flows through channeled lock. Sacred doors open to the fire within. Our bodies, crucibles, filled to the brim. Swimming through dirt, we feel ourselves rise, knowing for earth, there's no compromise. Roots drinking water, feeding off dirt, we enter our garden, our will to assert. Be here now. We hail to thee, all that is within. Both arms gather the all that is, hands crossed upon the heart that gives, informing self of the work at hand. Intention and magic gives grace to the land. The body is upright, the center, the tree, the pillar that stands, it's you and it's me. Up from our roots through our center to sky, connecting what is from below to on high. Our body, a temple, a column of prayer, offers our magic into the air. Words travel forth on the air that we breathe. Will fire creates change from silent scream. Love flows through our hearts, a tear-sweetened stream. Axis mundi, in vision, we realize the dream. And so it is. Be here now.
So it is.
So I will close with Mary as Goddess. This was a group written from years ago. Hail Mary, full of grace. All divinity is with thee. Blessed is the fruit of thy womb, the 7 generations. Holy Mother, source of creation, grant us heaven on earth, here and now. Welcome us through the gate into your abundant and diverse garden, to love and love some more throughout all eternity. And so it is. And so it is.
All right.
Well, thank you all for this lovely circle.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
For,
Ashera, thanks for being here, my dear.
Ashara.
Ashara, thank
It's okay. It takes a little bit of training for all the traditional scholars in the world. It's lovely to be here. Thank you so much.
Okay.
It's a Shara.
A Shara.
Thanks for being here.
And I just didn't, because I didn't make it there quite on time, if I might just ask who the others are in the room.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Lucera Love and
Yeah.
Erica
Well,
Folk.
I know these people, it's the other people.
Oh, I'm Trinity.
And I'm Camille.
Hi.
Arcada.
Okay, very nice to meet you.
We are in McKinleyville, California.
Ah,
Yeah.
lovely. Thank you so much. Thanks for including me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for zooming in and
I have to go, so talk to you later. Bye.
Bye. All right, shall we stop?